The personalities that matter with Keith Vaz on Talking Points.
Leica Radio.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio. My special guest today is the former Prime Minister of Lebanon, described as one of the most beautiful and important countries in the world, and it's a home to nearly 7 million people. Lebanon has suffered greatly over the last few years. Prior to his time as Prime Minister, Hassan Diab forged a career as an outstanding academic and teacher with over 30 years of experience working in the profession at the American University of Beirut. He joins me this morning from Beirut, Lebanon. Good morning, former Prime Minister Hassan Diab.
Good morning, Keith.
Now, Hassan Diab, you were born in Beirut and lived your formative lives there, but then at a very young age, you started a very special relationship with the United Kingdom. I think at the age of 16. Do you remember your early days in Beirut before you moved to the UK? And did you see much of the Civil War in 1975?
Well, during the first year of Civil War, 1975-76, I was still studying at Romana High School. When I left the UK to resume my studies away from the difficult situation in Lebanon back in 1976, it was tough and I had to make difficult life-transforming decisions on my own from the age of 16, as my dad had passed away when I was 10 and my mom was playing the role of an ambassador visiting the four of us, that's 3 boys and a girl, that were living in different countries. So I decided I was going to excel in my studies and I managed to come out as one of the top students in all my studies. My academic journey in the UK started by completing my O-levels and A-levels in 1 year instead of 3 years, and then I went on to PhD.
You received your higher education studies in the United Kingdom at various different institutions. What are your recollections of your time here? You obviously liked it because you kept going from degree to degree at different places in the UK.
Oh, absolutely. I loved it. I mean, my studies at the UK gave me a solid foundation for what was coming next, and I have sincere feelings for the British because I received all the support I needed to succeed during my studies in the UK. And I'm probably the first president of the Council of Ministers in Lebanon that is an alumni of the British educational system, and I'm particularly proud of that.
Because I'm just looking here. I think you visited more universities than I've had hot dinners. Leeds Metropolitan, where you did your BSc, you did an MSc at Surrey University, and you did a PhD in Bath. So quite a spread. You then went on to a very distinguished life in academia in the Lebanon, 33 years dedicating your life to educating others at the American University of Beirut, one of the most famous universities in the whole of the Middle East. Did this help you later on when you became Minister for Higher Education in trying to fashion the kind of education system that you wanted to see people flourish under in Lebanon?
Yes, certainly. Well, first of all, the role of the American University of Beirut, where I've spent 33 years or 34 years, and other higher quality universities in the region is certainly essential. I believe that education is the prime mover for disruptive change in today's complex world. Obviously, in my opinion, education goes beyond career development to the development of students' mental capacities, including their ability to distinguish facts from opinions, be creative and critical, appreciate diversity, believe in equality, and embrace others. So accordingly, education should not only provide pedagogical instruction, but also influence attitudinal reform. It should connect language, culture, moral values, reshape the learner's identity, encourage free thinking and responsible citizenship, thus facilitating social unity and preparing the new generations for the social, political, and economic development of their countries. I believe new teaching methodologies are no longer only about transferring knowledge. They are about promoting analysis, synthesis, entrepreneurship, and innovation skills. They are about creating global citizens that have the necessary breadth or soft skills, as well as depth or hard skills in the area of specialization in a dynamic, rapidly changing world and emerging market.
Now, your wife is an academic, very distinguished associate professor at the Lebanese American University, Noor Diab. Your children are all doing academic work. When you were Minister of Higher Education, it must have been amazing to be offered this job, knowing your background. Was it a great challenge for you? Did you enjoy it immensely?
While I was Minister of Higher Education back in 2011, 2014, there were many achievements during that time that got Lebanon in very high positions. I just would like to recall one item, which is in the Education World Forum annual report of December 2013, which places Lebanon as number 4 out of 144 countries in terms of quality of teaching science and math at universities, only preceded by Singapore, Portugal, and Finland, as I recall. I'm proud of the work we did in that respect.
This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio. I'm talking to the former Prime Minister of Lebanon, Hassan Diab. When we come back, we're going to be talking about his term as Prime Minister and other issues. Join us after the break.
Keith Vaz on Talking Points, Leica.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio. I'm talking to the former Prime Minister of Lebanon, Hassan Diab. Prime Minister, can you describe the emotions that you had when you were standing in the Lebanese parliament? The president had obviously called you to the presidential palace, and you were offered what must be one of the most challenging jobs in the whole world, the premiership of Lebanon. What did you feel at that moment?
Well, it was a mixed feeling of the fact that I was about to carry a very heavy load on the one side and wanting to make a positive difference for the youth and the Lebanese on the other side. So I knew there were challenges ahead, but was not aware of the immensity of these challenges, especially those that came later, meaning after I became designated Prime Minister on December 2019. For example, what came later was COVID-19, which crippled the strongest economies in the world, let alone a country like Lebanon that is at default. Escalation of vertical political deep divisions in the country, defaulting payment of Eurobond because Lebanon was unable to continue with the previous financial model that got Lebanon in deep waters after decades of mismanagement and bad financial decisions.
Lebanese politics is very complicated. You were put forward as an independent candidate in 2019. There are many, countless secular divisions in Lebanese politics. Did you feel it was important to be an independent rather than backing any other political party? Did that give you more leeway to get things done?
As you correctly mentioned, Lebanon is a very complex political arena, and I've always been an independent person because I believe in expressing my opinion and not any political party's opinion. The situation in the country at the time, back in 2019, necessitated an independent candidate, and my name was chosen as it had been suggested in the media several times since 2014. But I actually knew that I was seriously being considered only 3 days before becoming the Prime Minister designate.
Now, in spite of a very difficult period between 2019 and 2021, you were very busy as the Prime Minister. Is there one particular accomplishment that you want to be remembered by? I mean, we're not ruling out the fact that you might come back again, of course. Your wife might have things to say about that. But, but in terms of one particular accomplishment, what would you say was the one you most proud of?
Well, before talking about that, you must be aware, as you alluded to, that the situation facing Lebanon during my time was unprecedented in the history of Lebanon in terms of the number of crises hitting Lebanon in parallel in a short period of time, whether it's financial, social, banking-related, Eurobonds payment default, COVID-19, political divisions, security problems, exchange rate problems, and so on. However, I'm proud of many accomplishments, among others, which includes cessation of Eurobond payments that would have otherwise depleted our reserves in an additional amount of over $9 billion during 2020 and 2021. Another is the National Reform Plan that was introduced for the first time in Lebanon's history. It was designed and approved by the cabinet in less than 6 weeks, while other countries would typically take 6 months to complete it. I've also requested an IMF program right after that. I have pushed for a large social safety net program, which was needed at the time, very important for Lebanon. I've also implemented in the region of 85 reforms and targets in a short period of time, including requesting forensic audit, for example, of all government and central bank accounts, approving the use of scanners on Lebanese borders to eradicate smuggling. This would, it's estimated, provide an income to the country of about $1 to $2 billion, appointing a new board of directors for the National Electricity Company, company, initiation of drilling of gas in Block 4 in the Mediterranean, among many others.
Goodness me. And that was only 2 years. I'm not...
Actually, let me correct you. That was not 2 years. It was actually 6 months followed by 13 months of caretaker mode of operation.
That is an incredible set of achievements. This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points. I'm talking to the former Prime Minister of Lebanon, Hassan Diab. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the COVID crisis, how he dealt with that initial problem, and also the future of Lebanon. What does the future hold for this, the most beautiful country in the Middle East? Join us after the break.
Talking Points with Keith Vaz, celebrating diversity. Leica, London.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio. I'm talking to the former Prime Minister of Lebanon, Hassan Diab, about his fascinating period in office, but also what the future holds for this incredible country. Former Prime Minister, you are someone who's been involved in many projects outside politics. It's not been your life. Education, I suppose, has been, but you're now the president of the Commonwealth Entrepreneurs Club for Lebanon. What hopes do you have for that particular organization? What do you want to do with it? Because you're starting with a clean slate, aren't you?
Well, I mean, one has to always remember that the function of leaders is to build more leaders, not followers, something that our region and indeed the world is in dire need of. So I have headed hundreds of projects that entailed establishing and supporting universities, managing higher education institutions, training the corporate sector, executive education programs, and so on. So I very much enjoy working on projects that positively impacts people. That is what I'm hoping to do with my role in CEC, or the Commonwealth Entrepreneurs Club.
Now, COVID broke out at the time you were Prime Minister. It had just started. How did you all deal with that crisis? And were you surprised over the last couple of years how it's developed into this global pandemic that has terrified the whole world? What was it like dealing with the crisis at the beginning?
Well, I mean, it was all new to us, like all countries across the world. And obviously, we had to deal with the issue in a technical and professional manner, the WHO directive and so on. So our first few months of COVID in Lebanon, extending from February until June 2020, our numbers were among the best in the world, to the extent that this was mentioned in an article in New York that, small countries such as Lebanon could teach a thing or two other countries of how to deal with COVID. I had top people in my team, experts, to help me in that, and we did very well. Of course, the moment that the Lebanese or any other society did not conform to the rules that need to be implemented, obviously the numbers started to increase, whether the number of people that got COVID or even the number of deaths.
Lebanon, as I've said, Hassan Diab, is a troubled country. It was not always troubled, but these days we talk about it as being a troubled country. What's the future for Lebanon? Are you optimistic about what can be done for, as I've said, what was one of the most beautiful countries in the entire Middle East?
Well, Keith, I have news. It is the most beautiful still. So anyway, I'm an optimist and always have been. Lebanon has faced many crises and many wars, but always stood up again. I believe despite the very difficult financial and social situation we are going through, Lebanon will prevail. And I have no doubt that Lebanon will receive the necessary support from the region as well as the international community.
Now, you are included in the book, Who Inspires Lebanon? Let me ask you finally this question. What inspires you? You've had an amazing journey. The journey is not over. It's continuing with new projects. You've been a minister. You've been an academic. You've trained a whole generation of Lebanese academics. You've been a friend of the United Kingdom. You're a father. You're a husband. What inspires you?
Well, in short, I would say I'm inspired by youth. This in turn helps me to inspire them, but there is no doubt that my source of inspiration is dealing with youth all my life, whether at university level or at the ministerial level. I have no doubt that the wealth of any country, as I repeatedly mentioned in my keynote speeches, is not in its natural resources. Our main and foremost wealth is our youth. The youth represent the future. It is therefore our our responsibility and duty to provide the best educational systems for them.
Hassan Diab, Prime Minister of Lebanon from 2019 to 2021. Thank you so much. It's been a great honor interviewing you. We always ask our special guests to choose a particular song that means something to them and to dedicate it to someone special. Which song would you like to choose and who would you like to dedicate it to?
Okay, so this is a difficult question because there are many songs that I like, but I have deep passion for my country. So I would choose the song that in Arabic, بحبك يا لبنان يا وطني بحبك, which in English means I love you, Lebanon. And it's by Fairuz, one of our icons in Lebanon and the region. And the song alludes to unconditional love for Lebanon in all the phases and situations it faces.
You know, I'm going to remember this interview. I've done many interviews since I took this program for your wonderful quote that the function of leaders is to build more leaders, not followers. My goodness me, what a fantastic quote that is for anyone who's ever been a leader in any field. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's hear your song.
Thank you very much.